Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to the podcast.
I'm so excited.
Yasmeen, I'm so excited you're here. And I have to tell you, I haven't told you this, but so we had coffee in London several months ago.
Yeah.
And at the time, the idea for this podcast was already sort of like percolating in my head. I knew I wanted to wrap up Quit Your Day Job. I knew I wanted to do something more talk showy. And my original idea was just like interesting people who just bring like great energy to the table. And I've had you on my list since we had coffee in London.
I remember you even pulled out your little notebook. You were like, don't mind me. I just have to write something down.
Write something down. So I'm so excited that you're here and that you have agreed to come on and share your incredible story.
This is a fast friendship that I'm super, super happy about.
I love it. So you are a multi-hyphenate in like I actually was like trying to list out all of the things to describe you. There's a lot.
Still trying to figure it out as well.
So here's what I've got so far. Actor, dancer, singer, choreographer, teacher, brand strategist, and bride.
Oh my God. I think you covered it. You only are missing margarita lover, but that's
margarita lover, proud Harvard grad. Although I'm not going to advertise that because as we were just discussing, I think there's been a weird self-selection of this podcast of people that sing and went to Harvard. So maybe those are just the most interesting people that I know. There are other non-Harvard attending singers on this podcast. Don't worry. And non-singers, I guess you don't have to sing to come on, but it's a nice addition.
It's a nice to have.
But I did go deep last night down into your musical. I watched your 2022 musical theater reel. I watched you sing some beautiful songs. You have an amazing voice. You're a great performer.
Oh, thank you. I mean, literally, I did the Harvard thing, the neurobio thing, the advertising agency account executive thing. Shout out to my parents for keeping it real. But my parents said you need 2 years in corporate America. So on the anniversary of my second year, I regretfully declined my employment, and I said I did what was asked of me, and now I need to do what I've always wanted to do, which is perform. So it's been 6 or 7 years now, and it's certainly been a hustle and a grind, but I wouldn't change it for anything.
So I was floored by your story of putting together your wedding in a week, which is already the romantic comedy starring insert amazing actress here. It's so, I want to hear everything about it. But first, I want you to tell everybody a bit of the backstory and how you met this person that you ended up marrying in a week.
Yes. Oh, just for the listeners out there, I didn't meet him and get married to him.
Oh, yes. Let's clarify what the week was. Let's clarify the week in question.
We'd been dating for 5-ish years by that point, and we had a beautiful wedding. We are both from Lebanon, a beautiful Lebanese wedding planned, but unfortunately, 2020 had other plans, as it did for everyone in the universe. And our wedding got postponed, and then canceled.
So when was it originally scheduled for?
It was originally scheduled for May of 2020, and then it was postponed officially to September 10th, 2020.
Oh my God. So you're almost 3 days past, as we're recording this, 3 days past your almost anniversary.
So funnily enough, wedding in a week did fall after all that our wedding was on September 10th, 2020.
Okay, well, happy third anniversary.
Thank you.
Elated.
I cannot believe I haven't killed my husband yet after 18 months in lockdown. Like the first 18 months of our marriage, we were cellmates in a London 1-bed flat. So like people are like, oh my gosh, how do you feel with your anniversary? I'm like proud. I haven't made headlines.
When my kids turned 1, I ordered a case of champagne and I was like we kept these people alive for 1 year
I
and
don't
we
know
are
how you
still
did
alive.
that. I
But
really
marriage
don't.
is kind of like every year I get to a wedding anniversary, I am like, yeah, all right, pat on the back. We did
Exactly.
it.
Me and Com, we pat each other on the back every year. It's great.
But you guys had a family connection, right? As I recall. Is that how
Yeah.
you
So,
met your family?
after we started dating, we had met through a mutual friend in Lebanon, where we're both from. And we kind of found out after we started dating that our parents were childhood best friends in Beirut. So, that kind of synced everything up for us
Incredible.
that, our parents were already hanging and partying just like without us. And like, were we invited? Unclear. So yeah, we even found a picture. My mom found a picture in an album where, my husband is 4 and I'm 6 months old and we're in the same photo. I think I'm checking out his ass.
As a 6-month-old, how advanced of you?
Listen, she started early. And so yeah, it apparently I've known my husband my entire life, which is so cute to think about.
I love that. Okay, so you've got the fiance. It's COVID is March 2020, February-ish, March, really things kicking off. You've probably got everything ready. Invites out, RSVPs in, dress. You're ready to
Yes.
go.
We had save the dates going, and we had a few things at play during that year, or I did personally, where we're dealing with a pandemic that's fast approaching. And just for everyone, I've read My What If Year by, I don't know if you've heard of her, Alicia Fernandez Miranda.
I hear she's got a huge ego now.
I mean, I hear her book is amazing. No, it actually is amazing. But
she's great.
2020 took us all by surprise. But on top of the pandemic, I finally had made my West End debut here in London, and within a week, theater and my career presumably just shuts down. And then lastly, but definitely most importantly, the whole country of Lebanon, and specifically Beirut, was, subject to the port explosion on August 4th, 2020. That was just the most devastating experience for any and all Lebanese, or people who know Lebanese people, because, we're a proud country of who we are, and we're definitely resilient, but it was a tough experience. So I think the culmination of all of those things, we kind of just decided, a wedding is not in the cards for us. And I just really felt just destroyed and mentally, and like just, worn down, and realizing, what, I'm not sure, a marriage is going to be beautiful, but I don't know that a wedding is meant for me, or meant for us.
I mean, it's just compound after situation after situation, awful thing after awful thing, in a time where our resilience was already so low because of what we had already been through for the first part of 2020. So, and I write about in My What If Year, that book that you're so handily holding up. If you're watching this on YouTube, get to see that pretty pink cover one more time. But I write about a wedding that I worked while I was interning at a hotel in Skye, and I was so amazed by the optimism at that time when everything felt so dark. To have a wedding, even a tiny one, is just like the most optimistic thing you can do.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I was in the States, and my now husband was in Lebanon for all of this, because we had separated to be with our respective families during this difficult time. And my partner couldn't enter the States because the COVID restrictions at the time, you had to be an immediate family member, and he was not my husband yet. But the irony is that I was trying to get him to the States so that we could be married. So it was just a mess and a half. And it wasn't until September 2nd or September 1st of 2020 that my partner calls me and says, I found a way to get into the States that we just didn't consider before. The reason there was this whole red zone situation where if you were in a red zone country, you couldn't enter the States.
All of these like insane restrictions that probably,
right?
I mean,
that changed every hour.
Yeah. I'm
So,
certainly not like an anti-masker, and I was a very safe person during COVID and caring for others,
absolutely.
but the restrictions, when you look back on them, they like didn't make any scientific
Yeah,
sense
they were
at all.
They were just yeah, it was good for everyone to feel like they were in control of a narrative that was just really just so beyond what any of us could have imagined. Yeah, so he calls me and he's like, some of my friends flew to Qatar, which is not a red zone country.
Oh my God.
And then flew direct from there to New York. And there's no direct flights from Beirut to New York, which is why he would have to do a layover in Europe. And that is a red zone area.
Oh God.
So I was like, you're going to fly 7 hours in the opposite direction to then fly 20 hours or whatever to me. If that's not romantic, I
mean, like, that's like, what a way to like set out the, like stake in the ground. He's committed to you. He's committed to this.
I know. And so he was like, I'm going to come. I miss you so much. I said, absolutely. We hang up. He calls me back. He goes, should my parents come with me? And I'm like, okay, like, sure. The more the merrier. And then he hangs up. Then he calls me again. Should my brother come? Do you want to get married? And I was like, okay, just for all listeners out there, I might be the most type A list-oriented planner in the whole world. And so when I heard this, like, I nearly like pooped my pants. I was like, this is not real. This is not happening. Also, it's not possible.
Right.
And yet the answer that came out of my mouth was yes. This feels like the first time I feel hope in a really long time. And it's around the time that we had originally wanted to celebrate our union, and let's do it.
Hell yeah. So you probably could have just gone to the courthouse, got the certificate, right? But you decided to have a wedding. What was going through your head at that time?
Quite literally everything, every emotion, one of which obviously excitement and awe and inspiration and hope, but also this feeling of, what the hell am I doing? And guilt for feeling happy when so many people in the world are sad. And also just like, am I crazy? Am I going to look back on this time and regret that this all happened so quickly? Luckily, the events that transpired during the week before our wedding makes it so that it not only am I happy it happened, but I now truly and genuinely believe in my heart that it had to happen that way and no way else.
I love that. So you have written a book about this. We'll talk about that in a moment. So I don't want to spoil everything for everybody. But what were some highlights, some lowlights? Like, the range of emotions during that week must have just been completely wild. And I know your people really came through for you. Like, you had like your friends, your family, everybody like rallied to make this happen. So tell me a little bit about that.
Truly. It was at the time, it's an age-old thing that you hear, but to experience it firsthand is so magical, where truly when you feel the least hopeful or the the least, like, I don't know, when you feel the lowest is usually when you get lifted the highest by the people around you. And
love that.
That includes my family, my friends, my husband's family and friends, including the people, so the thing that we were grappling with was, yes, we were quote unquote throwing a wedding, but the maximum capacity is 30 people, right? And you need to understand that we are literally my big fat Lebanese wedding. Each of us have like 600 cousins. So we went from a 300-person wedding in Lebanon, and it was going to be so, beautiful and grand and amazing. And, it turned into 8 people in the church, just our parents and our siblings watching us, exchange our vows, and then a small gathering afterwards. So that's where a lot of the guilt came from, because I would say that there is a Yasmeen before Wedding in a Week and a Yasmeen after, and the one before, and I'm not sure if other brides or you know, future, present, or past brides have felt this, but there is this feeling of whether you can control it or not, there are expectations involved. It's your special day, it's your special time, it's your milestone. So there are certain expectations that your best friend will fly from across the world to celebrate you, or that everyone will say this was the best wedding they've ever been to. Like, whether or not you're going to admit that out loud, I have found over the past few years that everyone just like feels that. And that's human nature, to like want to feel celebrated when it comes to love. At least I believe that. So something that the Yasmeen after Wedding in a Week, I no longer lead a life with expectations. I lead a life that loves to be pleasantly surprised by things and by people and by small moments. And Wedding in a Week genuinely taught me that. Like, rather than thinking of this wedding as a big picture, and, you know, brides always say, like, you're not going to even see anyone at your wedding because you're going to be so caught up in it all. When I tell you that I touched and smelled and like licked every tablecloth in this wedding, because I was just so in gratitude for every single aspect of it, and looking in my guests' eyes and being like, you are here amidst all of this, and knowing in my heart the people that for obvious reasons couldn't attend, there was no ill feeling or sadness. Even, it was just like, thank you for being in my heart. And this all makes me sound very like,
do you know what though? I love it because this is not at all related to your Wedding in a Week, but I think that particularly right after COVID, you know, the worst part of it ended and people were vaccinated and starting to get back to normal. That feeling that a lot of people took from the pandemic, this just gratitude, really, this releasing of expectations that you so beautifully articulated. Do you feel like you've been able to keep that up now several years on?
I've had, I don't think there's a way for me to ever go back to the way it was before, just because it was such a, you know, such an internal transformation for me, and my family. And it's something I'll always carry. Yeah. I think about the story that I've written, you know, it started as me emailing a listserv being like, I have this hilarious story. Does anyone know like anyone at a bride magazine so I can do a funny column, like 10 words, just because this is hilarious. Right. And it's turned into like people being like, this is a rom-com. Get your IP out there and let's get this going. And, you know, it's been an interesting, such a beautiful self-discovery, because the book's more than just about a wedding. It's about Lebanon's history and the complicated relationship between females within a family, you know, generational saga.
It's beautiful. And there's poetry, there's prose. I mean, it's just the story is so catchy. The title's so catchy, but it's so much more than just, I have to get married in a week. Everything went crazy and now I'm married, kind of thing.
So the way I'm pitching it is, if my big fat Greek wedding and the kite runner had a fat chubby baby, like a cute little baby,
really good cheeks,
with like Middle Eastern
and a lot of intergenerational trauma,
with a thick unibrow. And that, you know, if I can catch someone in the airport with the flashy promise of a whirlwind wedding and accidentally they learn about the best country in the world to me and my family, then, you know, my 2020 would have been worth it.
You're Trojan horsing these people. I love it. Tell me one moment from the day that sticks out in your mind, that is that scene that you play in your head over and over again.
So it's less the day of. The day of was just surreal, living in the moment, but it was the preparation beforehand. So when we were first working on our original 1.0 wedding, I had emailed vendors though. I like literally looked up blogs, like how do you email a vendor? So I'm like, hello, my name is Yasmeen. My husband, my fiance's, come and we're really looking for a great photographer. And would you mind having like a catch up to see if we're the right fit? It turns into this like formal process that like caused me stress, whatever. Now, wedding in a week was I literally stalk on Instagram, find the first picture of a bride from 2019 that I like, realize that this girl is local, and I email her, yo, wedding in a week. You don't know me, but you can have tequila with us after if you come.
Do you
Please.
have an iPhone and an extra charger?
Literally.
That's
And
all
I
we
said,
need.
and by the way, it's in 5 days. And, the response within 2 minutes, holy moly, I have not had work in a few months.
Yeah.
This is the craziest thing ever. My best friend is a videographer. We've always wanted to do an event together. Can we come and just have a good time? And I was like, so like a moment like that, in what world would that happen otherwise? It just showed me like, it reinstilled how the world works in crazy ways if you let it. And even things like, the shoe stores closed because of COVID, but they opened for me and my mom because we knocked on the glass door and explained our situation. So we're wearing masks, and instead of just like being discreet and looking at shoes, they like blasted music, and we had a dance party in the shoe store with wearing like freaking ivory heels. Like my mom and sister were wearing wedding shoes too. Like these are just all the moments ingrained in who I am now, because I really genuinely don't think it would have happened with the same, carefree nature and spontaneity and lightheartedness that it actually did.
So you're kind of an expert on planning weddings now, basically a wedding planning expert. What tips do you have for some brides or grooms that are planning their wedding in more than a week? And I'm thinking specifically of my brother, if you're listening to this, who's now been engaged going on 2.5 years. And I'm waiting for that wedding date. I don't want to be postmenopausal when I'm standing up there with him. So what tips do you have specifically for my brother and his fiance and or other people?
Well, listen, I am all for everyone having their own wedding planning experience, but just based on my own, there's a few like logistical ones. One is vendors are humans too. They're just out here for a good time. So, it doesn't have to be as formal and scary as you think, connecting with them. But yeah, I think it's the expectation thing. The more you're able to see that having a wedding of any kind, of any size, in any location is just such a magical thing, it kind of makes the details a little bit less weighted. It's not that they're not important, because and that was going to be my last tip, is revel in the small things. The small details, as long as they mean the world to you, your day's bound to be beautiful. Like for me, so much is going on, and yet the thing that I keep thinking back on my wedding is, the bright red, orange, pink flowers that were there. And granted, not many flowers. There was like 3 flowers per table that like my dad may as well have picked from a garden somewhere, like with the last minute notice. But even still, I'm like, the colors looked different because they were in a setting that was really happy and special and emotional for me. So, yeah, just enjoy the small things. Expectations are, as long as it's about love, it's going to be beautiful. And, yeah, just to have fun with it.
And plan it before your sister gets too old, please. Thanks. For not everybody, just specific listeners.
Just so you know, Alicia's brother, she did this entire podcast just
this
to
is
get that message
basically
across.
all to convince you to no, oh my God, he's gonna kill me when he hears this, actually. Okay, so you've written the book. Tell me, where is Wedding in a Week now? Like, where are you in your journey with this story?
Oh, well, so, as much as I'm really good at performing arts, and very much understand that industry. I am very new to literary arts, but currently, I know I'm supposed to say I'm currently seeking representation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But it's been great to have, friends and mentors like you that have recently gone through the process, and it's been so fun to learn. But yeah, I see, Wedding in a Week being a really fun story that is told in a widespread way. Who knows, maybe acting or public speaking or whatever is movies is a part of its future. So, but for now, we're starting with the actual work, and we'll see where it goes.
I love it. Well, I can't wait for everybody to read it. Yasmeen, thank you for coming on this podcast.
Thank you. Also, low key, this is my first podcast ever. So this is like
you
so
killed
fun.
It. Your door's gonna be like banging. Your phone's gonna be ringing off the hook with podcast requests now.
This is so fun.